to stop the description until I can find a new position.
We are bringing you You guys are pretty. We are bringing you an eyewitness account of what's happening at the Wilmouth Farm, Groversville, New Jersey. Dr. Phillips at Groversville.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
On what? We haven't determined yet.
here I am, back on the stone wall that adjourns Mr. Wilton's garden. From here, I can get a sweep of the whole scene. I'll give you every detail as long as I can talk, as long as I can see. More state police have arrived. They're drawing up a corridor in front of the pits, about 30 of them. No need to push the crowd back now. They're willing to keep their distance. The captain is conferring with someone. We can't see quite who. Oh yes, I believe it's Professor Pearson. Yes, it is. Now they've parted. The professor moves around one side, studying the object, while the captain and 2 policemen advance with something in their hands. I can see it now. It's a white handkerchief tied to a pole. A flag of truce. If those creatures knew what that means, what anything means. Wait, something's happening. Right at the advancing men. It strikes them head on. Good Lord. They're turning into flame. That hurts. The whole field caught on fire. The woods, the barn, the gas tanks, the automobiles, it's spreading everywhere. It's coming this way, about 20 yards to my right.
Ladies and gentlemen, due to circumstances beyond our control, we are unable to continue the broadcast from Grover's Mill. Evidently, there's some difficulty with our field transmission. However, we will return to that point at the earliest opportunity. In the meantime, we have a late bulletin from San Diego, California. Professor Indelkoffer, speaking at a dinner at the California Astronomical Society, expressed the opinion that the explosions on Mars are undoubtedly nothing more than the severe volcanic disturbances on the surface of the planet. We now continue with our piano interlude.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have just been handed a message that came in from Grover's Mill by telephone. Just a moment. At least 40 people, including 6 state troopers, lie dead in a field east of the village of Grover's Mill. Their bodies burned and distorted beyond all possible recognition. We just know they were bodies, I guess. The next voice you hear will be that of Brigadier General Montgomery Smith, commander of the State Militia of Trenton, New Jersey.
I have been requested by the Governor of New Jersey to place the counties of Mercer and Middlesex of far west as Princeton and east to Jamberg under martial law. No one will be permitted to enter this area except by special pass issued by the state or military authorities. 4 companies of state militia are proceeding from Trenton to Grover's Mill and will aid in the evacuation of homes within a range of military operations. Thank you.
You have just been listening to General Montgomery Smith, commanding the state militia at Trenton. In the meantime, further details of the catastrophe at Grover's Mill are coming in. The strange creatures, from unleashing their deadly assault, crawled back into their pit and made no attempt to prevent the efforts of the firemen to recover the bodies and extinguish the fire. Combined fire departments of Mercer County are fighting the flames which menace the entire countryside. We have been unable to establish any contact with our mobile unit at Grover's Mill, but we hope to be able to return you there at the earliest possible moment. In the meantime, you guessed it. We take you... Just one moment, please. Ladies and gentlemen, I have just been informed that we have fully established communication with an eyewitness of the tragedy. Professor Pearson has been located at a farmhouse near Grover's Mill, where he has established an emergency observation post. As a scientist, he will give you his explanation of the calamity. The next voice you hear will be that of Professor Pearson, brought to you by direct wire. Professor Pearson. That was feedback.
Of the creatures in the rocket cylinder at Grover's Mill, I can give you no authoritative information, either as to their nature, their parallel beam against any object they choose, but by means of a polished parabolic mirror of unknown composition. This is the mirror of a lighthouse projects a beam of light. That is my conjecture of the origin of this heat ray.
Thank you, Professor Pearson. Ladies and gentlemen, here is a bulletin from Trenton. It is a brief statement informing us that the charred body of Carl Phillips has been identified in a Trenton hospital. Now here's another bulletin from Washington, D.C. Office of the Director of the National Red Cross reports 10 units of the Red Cross emergency workers have been assigned to the headquarters of the state militia stationed outside Grover's Mill, New Jersey. Here's a bulletin from State Police, Princeton Junction. The fires at Grover's Mill and vicinity are now under control. Scouts report all quiet in the pit and no sign of life appearing from the mouths of the cylinder. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special statement from Mr. Harry McDonald, Vice President in charge of operations.
We have received a request from the militia of Trenton to place at their disposal our entire broadcasting facilities. In the view of the gravity of the situation and believing that the radio has a responsibility to serve the public interest at all times, we are turning over our facilities to the state militia at Trenton.
We now take you to the field headquarters of the state militia near Grover's Mill, New Jersey. This is Captain Lansing of the Signal Corps, attached to the state militia, now engaged in military operations in the vicinity of Grover's Mill. Situation arising from the reported presence of certain individuals of unidentified nature is now under complete control. The cylindrical object, which lies in a pit directly below our position, is surrounded on all sides by 8 battalions of infantry, without heavy field pieces, but adequately armed with rifles and machine guns. All cause for alarm, if such cause ever existed, is now entirely unjustified. The things, whatever they are, do not even venture to poke their heads above the pit. I can see their hiding place plainly in the glare of the searchlights here. With all their reported resources, these creatures can scarcely stand up against heavy machine gun fire. Anyway, it's an interesting outfit for the troops. Outing for the troops. I can make out their khaki uniforms crossing back and forth in front of the lights. It almost looks like a real war. There appears to be some slight smoke in the woods bordering the Millstone River. Probably fire started by campers. Well, we ought to see some action soon. One of the companies is deployed on the left flank. A quick thrust, a quick thrust, and we'll all be over.
And you believe that?
Usually it is.
It happens.
Sorry. Now wait a minute. I see something on top of the cylinder. Oh, it's nothing but a shadow. Now the troops are on the edge of the Wilmouth farm. 7,000 armed men closing in on an old metal tube. Wait, it wasn't a shadow. Something rooted. Solid metal. Kind of shield-like after rising up out of the cylinder. It's going higher and higher. Why, it's standing on legs. Actually rearing up on a sort of metal framework. Now it's reaching above the trees and the searchlights are on it. Hold on!
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a great announcement to make. Incredible as it may seem, both the observations of science and the evidence of our eyes lead to the inescapable assumption that those strange beings who landed in the Jersey farmlands tonight were the vanguard of an invading army from the planet Mars. Dun, dun, dun. The battle which took place tonight at Grover's Mill has ended in one of the most startling defeats ever suffered by any army in modern times. 7,000 men armed with rifles and machine guns pitted against a single fighting machine of the invaders from Mars. 120 known survivors. The rest, strewn over the battle area from Grover's Mill to Plainsburg, crushed and trampled to death under the metal feet of this monster, or burned to cinders by its heat ray. The monster is now in control of the middle section of New Jersey and has effectively cut the state through its center. Communication lines are down from Pennsylvania to the Atlantic Ocean. Railroad tracks are torn. Service from New York to Philadelphia discontinued except routing some of the trains through Allentown and Phoenixville. Highways to the north, south, and west are clogged, and frantic human traffic
Police and Army reserves are unable to control the mad flight. By morning, the fugitives will have swelled Philadelphia, Camden, and Trenton. It's estimated to twice their normal population. At this time, martial law prevails throughout New Jersey and eastern Pennsylvania. We take you now to Washington for a special broadcast on the national emergency. The Secretary of the Interior.
Hi, everyone. This is your Secretary of the Interior. What are you doing? All right, citizens of the nation, I'll try not to conceal the gravity of the situation that confronts the country or the concern of your government in protecting the lives and the property of its people. However, I wish to impress upon you, private citizens and public officials, all of you, the urgent need of calm and resourceful action. Fortunately, this formidable enemy is still confined to a comparatively small area, like New Jersey, and we may place our faith in the military forces to keep them there. In the meantime, placing our faith in God, we must continue the performance of our duties, each and every one of us, so that we can confront this destructive adversary with a nation united, courageous, and consecrated to the preservation of human supremacy on this earth. Thank you.
You have just heard the Secretary of the Interior. Speaking from Washington, bulletins too numerous to read are piling up here in the studio. We are informed the central portion of New Jersey is blacked out from radio communication due to the effect of the heat wave on power lines and electrical equipment. Here is a special bulletin from New York. Cables received from English, French, German scientific bodies offering assistance. Astronomers report continued gas outbursts at regular intervals on the planet Mars. Majority voice opinion, the enemy will be reinforced by additional rocket machines. Attempts made to locate Professor Pearson of Princeton, who has observed Martians at close range. It's feared he was lost in recent battle. Langenfield, Virginia. Scouting planes report 3 Martian machines visible above treetops, moving north towards Somerville with population fleeing ahead of them. Heat ray not in use, although advancing at express train speed. Invaders pick their way carefully. They seem to be making conscious efforts to avoid destruction of cities and countryside. However, they stop to uproot power lines, bridges, and railroad tracks. Their apparent objective is to crush resistance, paralyze communication, and disorganize human society. Here's a bulletin now from Basking Ridge, New Jersey. Coon hunters have stumbled upon a second cylinder similar to the first embedded in the Great Swamp 20 miles south of Morristown. Army field pieces are proceeding from Newark to blow up second invading unit before a cylinder can be opened and the fighting machine rigged. They are taking a position now in the foothills of Watchkin Mountain. The mountains. Another bulletin from Langenfield, Virginia. Scouting planes report enemy machines, now 3 in number, increasing speed northward, kicking over houses and trees in their evident haste to form a conjunction with their allies south of Morristown. Machines also sighted by telephone operators east of Middlesex within 10 miles of Plainfield. There's a bulletin now from Whiston Field, Long Island. Fleet of Army bombers carrying heavy explosive flying north in pursuit of enemy. Scouting planes act as guides. They keep speeding enemy in sight. Just a moment, please, ladies and gentlemen. We run special wires now to the artillery line in adjacent villages to give you direct reports in the zone of the advancing enemy. First, we take you to the battery of the 22nd Field Artillery located in the Watchkin Mountains.